Hey everybody, today we are talking about Fiona and Jane by Jean Chen Ho. Fiona and Jane is a story about two best friends, Fiona and Jane. They grow up together and then once they graduate high school, they kind of go their separate ways for a little while because Fiona moves to New York and Jane kind of sticks around California, and this kind of causes a little of, separation in their friendship, but we get to see perspectives of both of them, where they are at in their lives, and that's basically it. I wasn't really sure if I was going to do a review on this book because honestly, I'm not really sure what to say about it. It just kind of fell flat for me, I guess. It wasn't bad, but it also didn't blow me away. It was just kind of meh for me. I guess I had expectations that this was going to be, I don't know, for some reason I thought Fiona and Jane were going to maybe have a little thing, have a relationship together, but their relationship really is just friends. And so because I was wrong about that in my thinking, I had to adjust. Oh, okay, this is just about them being friends. And then it goes on and you see the relationships that they have with other people. And so, which is fine. But there was just some things that for me, they just didn't stick. They didn't land for me. We have a type of story where it is going to jump around a lot. So the way that this was written is it starts with Jane's perspective. She is 18. She's traveled to Taiwan to visit her father, who's been there for work for almost 2 years now, I think. And then the next chapter goes to Fiona, and she's 22 years old in college. And then it goes back, it kind of has a flashback of when Fiona's 6 years old. And then it goes back to Jane and Fiona together in high school. And so it's just kind of all over the place in terms of the timeline. It doesn't just start and end in a nice, linear path. And there are a lot of books that jump around that do it well, and that it's great and it's a good way of storytelling rather than just doing it year to year and everything, which I'm not saying that this one didn't do a good job with that. It's just, in my opinion, I would have preferred to not have it jump around so much. And near the end, it stops doing such big jumps. It's more just a couple years here and there. But the problem for me was that sometimes as I was reading it, and then it might mention something that we learned from the past, I'd have to sit and think, wait, who are we talking about again? Was this Jane's backstory or was this Fiona's backstory? And sometimes I'd find myself mixing them up and being like, oh, right, that didn't happen to Fiona, that happened to Jane. And so having to keep track of that, which shouldn't be a hard thing to do as a reader. And so that might have just been a personal problem for me, but that's just was my experience when I was trying to read it. It didn't happen all the time, but just a couple of times where I was like, hold up, who are we talking about again? Or it tells you what it is, and I'm like, oh yeah, that was her. And so it just kind of made me mix up some things sometimes. The main thing that we get from each of these chapters, which is basically the time period and the perspective of either Fiona or Jane, is kind of what they're doing. Are they going to school? Are they working? What are they doing? And then who are they with? And so it really has a lot to do with the relationships that they choose when they're not together. So sometimes we have Jane, who sometimes she's in a relationship with a woman, and sometimes she's in a relationship with a man. And then we have Fiona, who pretty much sticks with men the whole time, and it just goes through their relationships a little bit that they're having and kind of what they're going through with that person. The problem that I had with this is that I had trouble connecting to very many characters. Maybe that was the point. Maybe you didn't need to connect with anyone except Fiona and Jane. But it just seemed like every time we started learning about somebody, it would go to like, let's say we were learning about Fiona and her relationship with one of her partners, and then we go to Jane, and then when we come back, Fiona's no longer with that person anymore. And so a lot of the story we get about the other person in the relationship is very small. Like, a lot of times they don't even have their own dialogue at all. Some of the people that they are dating, they don't even speak at all. It's just they're being talked about, but we never actually meet them, so we don't get to connect with them. There's really only one, I feel like, where they do get a little bit of their own storytelling aspect, and it kind of goes to their perspective for a little bit, and it's one of Fiona's lovers, and we kind of get to know a little bit more about him, and then, but still, it doesn't last very long before we start learning about another part of their lives, another point in their lives when they're with another person again. And so you don't really get to, I don't know, care, I guess, about very many of these people, because they just aren't constant in Fiona's life or in Jane's life. They're just very, here and then not here. And so it's kind of, I don't know, I guess the story kind of teaches you that best friends forever, because no matter what, you'll always have your best friend, even if your other relationships don't work out. I don't know. I'm not sure if that's actually what I was supposed to get out of this or not, which again is why I wasn't sure what to say about this book. Because I was just thinking that it was going to be amazing. From the things that I've seen people share about it, it just seemed like it was going to be something, like, my expectations were just different than the way that it turned out to be for me. Maybe if I reread it at a different time, and stayed more focused in it. I mean, I felt like I read it pretty quickly, so I felt like I was sticking with it had a good pace with it. But I don't know, maybe it'll be better on a second read. Maybe I'll get things better that I missed. I don't know. So chances are you've read this, because it's been out for a while and I just barely got onto it. And so if you have, then, well, do you feel kind of the same way about it? Were you just kind of like, or did you love it? Or did you really dislike it? If you haven't read it, sorry, I didn't really give that the best of a review to have you want to read it, probably. But if you like books about relationships and you don't care about, as long as these two characters are in it, that's all you care about, then, then it's fine, right? Again, it wasn't a bad book or anything. It's just not one that I would put on the top of my favorites list of what I've read so far in 2023. It's going to be near the bottom for me. But I'm curious to see if you think something else other than that. If you had a different opinion on it, then I'd love to know what you think. And yeah, so this was Fiona and Jane. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.